Now there is something you don't see every day. It's almost as if there's about to be a rumble. We have the Nintendo Game Boy, released in 1989 for a retail price of $90. And the Sega Game Gear, released in 1990, the retail price of $150. These two were deadly rivals. It almost pains me to see them sitting so close to each other. Let's take a closer look at the Game Gear, shall we? We can see it's got a much larger screen than the Game Boy, with a 3.2-inch screen compared to a puny 2.6-inch screen. Now, the key feature to this behemoth is the color. That's right, color screen, compared to the monochromatic green screen of the Game Boy. Now, there are some obvious detracting features to the Game Gear, namely its size and weight. You could drop this on a small child and probably kill them. Side-by-side comparison doesn't look like that big of a difference. But if you can't fit this thing in your pocket, this thing certainly won't fit in your pocket. Calling into question just how portable it is. Now, most people are familiar with the Game Boy, the original Game Boy that is. We have an A and B button, start and select, and a D-pad. On the right side we have a volume slider and an extension connection to connect two Game Boys. On the left side we have a screen contrast dial and a jack to plug in a power adapter. On the bottom we have a headphone jack. On the top we have an on-off switch and a cartridge slot. On the back we have a compartment that holds 4 AA batteries, which gives you about 10 hours of gameplay. Not too shabby. The Sega Game Gear has a nice D-pad, speaker right there on the bottom left, 1 and 2 buttons and a start button. Color LCD screen, very nice. We have on the top a power button, a jack to plug in a power adapter, a little port here for an extension cable to plug 2 Game Gears together. Very nice. A headphone jack and a volume slider, and on the back is a cartridge port. There are 2 battery compartments that hold 6 AA batteries, which adds considerable weight to an already hefty and heavy unit. And that only gives you about 4 to 6 hours of gameplay. While the Game Gear was not the first portable handheld with a color screen, it's in fact the third, behind the TurboGrafx Express and the Atari Lynx. It is the one with a color screen that most people are familiar with because, well, frankly, it was more popular. Sega had a better catalog of games, and it may have been slightly more affordable, but I'm not sure. But the Nintendo Game Boy is the machine that everybody had because it was, frankly, so darn cheap. At $90 compared to $150, a lot more people had these things. Is the Game Boy a better unit? Technically, no. But there are some fun games on it. And there are some fun games on this. Basically, they're both good units, and it just comes down to personal preference on game libraries. And there you have it. I'm Dommy from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.